I started working nights at the hospital 3 weeks ago. I needed the money, and being a single parent meant I had to make it work. The hospital was an old place. The walls were white, but they looked gray under the bright lights. The break room was small and cramped, filled with old furniture that didn't match. The sounds of medical machines were always there, like a background noise I couldn't escape. On one of those shifts, I noticed room 204. It stood out to me. The patient never had visitors. He would just sit by the window, staring blankly outside, whispering to someone I couldn't see. I wasn't sure what was wrong with him at first. I thought he was just confused. But over the days, something felt really off about it. That I heard him talking in the dark. Long conversations, but I never saw anyone else in the room. The rest of the staff didn't say anything about it, and that made me uneasy. Every time I walked in, he seemed calm, but the window was always fogged up, even in the heat of summer. I couldn't shake a feeling in my gut. Maybe I was just tired. I brushed it off at first, but the whispers became clearer. It felt like the tension grew each night I worked. One night, I entered room 204. He was sitting up in bed, smiling. I felt a chill. I tried to talk to him, but he just stared through me. The fog on the window thickened. I felt like something was pulling at me from all sides. My heart started racing. The atmosphere felt heavy, almost like I couldn't breathe. Then one morning, I arrived to find he was gone. Just like that. No notice, nothing. I felt a knot in my stomach. Did I make it all up? Did I misinterpret what I saw? Deep down, I doubted myself. That I thought about it endlessly. Late one night, while I was sitting in the break room, I heard his voice again. It was clear in my mind. Then I turned around. Sitting in the empty chair by the window was a dark silhouette. I froze. Who is there? My voice trembled. No answer came. It was just me and that empty chair. That I wanted to run. I felt the walls closing in. I wanted to shake it off, but the whispers grew louder. I took a step forward, and the air grew colder. I could see my breath. Please, I said softly. Just tell me who you are. Then, just like that, a wave of cold swept through the room, wrapping around me. I blinked, and the chair was empty. But the whispers continued, echoing in my ears. I stumbled back, feeling lost. Each night since, I feel him. I hear him talking to someone I can't see. I don't know if I imagined it all. I don't know if he ever existed. But I'm haunted by those whispers and the chilling feeling that I'm always being watched. I still go to work every night, walking past room 204. Every time, the air thickens around me. I can still hear him. Sometimes, I think I can see that fog on the window from the corner of my eye. There's something there that I just can't shake. The next night, I walked in with a heavy heart. My shift started at 11 p.m., and I was already dreading the moment I had to pass room 204. I told myself to focus, but that room was like a magnet pulling me in. As I poured myself a cup of stale coffee in the break room, I noticed Jenny, one of the nurses, looking at me. She seemed tense. "What's up?" I asked casually, trying to mask my unease. "Did you hear about the patient that was in 204? She replied, her brow furrowed. "Yeah, he's gone." She shook her head slowly. "Not just gone. They found him, in the basement." My stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "I overheard the orderlies talking. They said he was down there for days before anyone noticed. No one knows how he got there." I felt a chill run down my spine. The last time I had seen him, he was lucid and smiling. How could he have ended up underground? I thanked Jenny and hurried out of the break room, every part of me alert. When I passed room 204, I hesitated. The fog on the window seemed thicker than ever. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. I wanted to see if he had left anything behind, some sign that he had been real. But all I saw was dark, oppressive nothingness. Then I heard it, a faint whisper. "Help me." My breath caught in my throat. I stepped back, my heart racing. The sound faded, but I felt a presence, heavy and suffocating, that I took a deep breath and opened the door, bracing myself for what awaited inside. The room was empty. The bed was made, the only sign that someone had been there was the foggy window. I wanted to turn away, but something compelled me to approach the glass. Then, I saw it, a shadow that flickered in the corner of the window. I blinked, and it disappeared. My pulse quickened. Was it my imagination? "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The room fell silent, but my heart pounded in my chest. I left the room, still shaken. I rounded the corner and headed toward the stairs. I needed to clear my head. As I descended, I heard something behind me. A soft sound, almost like footsteps. I turned to look, but there was nothing there. Just the empty corridor stretching back. Just as I reached the bottom, a door slammed shut above me. The echo sent a jolt through me. I rushed back to the stairs, my instincts screaming that something was wrong. When I got to the top, the sound of whispers enveloped me again. They weren't coming from room 204 this time, they were all around, swirling through the air. I glanced at the other doorways, but they all remained dark and still. That's when I saw it. A flicker of movement in the very last room. I was frozen, the hair on my arms standing up. I took a step closer, drawn in by an unknown force. The whispers grew louder, more urgent. "Help me," they cried. I couldn't breathe. Whatever was happening felt immense, and I had to know what it was. But as I reached for the handle, the door swung open on its own, revealing only darkness inside, and then I realized this wasn't over. Not yet. I stood there, heart racing, staring into the dark room. The whispers swirled around me like a thick fog, pulling me closer. I hesitated, my instincts screaming to run away, but the feeling of curiosity mixed with fear kept me rooted to the spot. The room seemed alive, waiting for me to step inside. Just then, I heard a shuffling sound behind me. I turned, but no one was there. The corridor was empty, lit only by the flickering fluorescent lights. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. Whatever was happening felt wrong. I needed to leave before I got tangled in whatever dark history lurked behind that door, but my feet wouldn't move. Instead, I took a cautious step inside. The air was thicker here, suffocating in its stillness. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and I could make out the vague outlines of furniture. An old chair, a bedside table, but no sign of anything more. Then I turned back toward the door, intending to close it. That's when I saw it again, a flicker in the far corner. I squinted, holding my breath. There. A small shape, almost human, crouched in the shadows. "Who's there?" I called, my voice trembling. The shape froze, and the whispers faded for a moment, replaced by an unsettling silence. I took another step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" That's when the shape slowly turned to face me. It looked like a child. Tears streamed down the tiny face, and I felt my heart clench. "There's no time," the child said in a shaky voice. "You have to get out of here. They're coming." "What are you talking about?" I stuttered, panic rising in my throat. Before I could say anything else, the door slammed shut behind me, plunging me into darkness. I stumbled back, my back hitting the wall. "Let me out. Please." The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I pounded on the door, desperate to escape. "Help!" I yelled, but my voice echoed back at me, mocking. The child stepped closer, a look of fear in their eyes. "Trust me," they pleaded. "You have to listen. This place, it's not safe." I glanced at the door, then back at the child. My instincts screamed to run, but I was drawn in by their intensity. What do you mean? Suddenly, the floor beneath us began to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling, and I stumbled to keep my balance. The child grabbed my hand. This way. Before I could protest, they were pulling me toward a small window at the far end of the room. My heart raced as the shadows around us twisted in unnatural ways. I could hear voices rising, growing louder, then I saw figures forming in the darkness, eyes glinting like stones. They were coming for us. Now, hurry! The child shouted. I wanted to resist, but the terror in their voice lit a fire under my feet. I dashed toward the window, desperation pushing me forward. Just as I reached it, a strong force pulled me back, something cold and heavy gripping my ankle. I turned to see one of the shadowy figures emerging from the darkness that I felt a surge of panic. My vision blurred as the child pulled me toward the window with all their might. You can't stay here. With one last effort, I pushed against the weight holding me down. The glass shattered, sending shards flying all around us. I felt the child's grip tighten as they yanked me through the opening, tumbling into the night beyond. As we landed on the ground outside, gasps filled the air. I looked back to the hospital. The shadows had receded into the building, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was just the beginning. Who were they? I gasped, breathless. The child looked at me, paling. You shouldn't have come here. Now, they'll come for you next. I gulped as a new sense of dread crept into my bones. This was far from over, I had only scratched the surface. I felt disoriented, lying on the cool ground. My heart still raced, fueled by adrenaline and confusion. The child remained beside me, their wide eyes darting around the dark surroundings as if they expected the shadows to return. Where are we? I asked, trying to catch my breath. They didn't answer right away, staring back at the hospital. The building loomed like a dark giant, its windows reflecting the faint light of the moon. We're safe for now, the child said, but there was a tremor in their voice. But it won't last long. They can't come out in the light, but they can find you. Who are they? I pressed. And why do I care? The child stepped closer, lowering their voice. They were trapped here, just like us. They don't want anyone to escape. That's why you shouldn't have come inside. It's their domain. A chill ran down my spine. Their domain. I thought about all the whispers, the cold pressing against me in the room. I was trying to help, I murmured, more to myself than to the child. Sometimes helping isn't enough, they replied sharply. You have to be careful. You might think you're doing the right thing, but the sound of rustling interrupted us. I turned to see a figure emerging from the hospital's entrance. My heart dropped. It was hard to make out clearly, but it looked human at least partially. The edges of their form flickered, shifting between shadow and substance, as if they couldn't decide what they should be. Run! The child yelled, grabbing my hand again. In a blind panic, we darted away from the hospital, fear propelling us through the underbrush. I could hear footsteps behind us, growing louder, but I didn't dare look back. Where are we going? I shouted as branches snagged at my clothes, slowing us down. Just keep running. The child urged. We have to find somewhere safe. After what felt like an eternity of sprinting, we reached a clearing. My lungs burned, and I fell to my knees, gasping for air. The child collapsed beside me, trembling. What was that thing? I panted. Is it one of them? It's one of the lost, they said, still breathless. They can't rest. It wants you to join them. Join them? The word sent ice through my veins. I looked around, desperately trying to spot anything to hide behind. Yes. Like I said, they'll come for you. They'll try to lure you back. You have to stay strong. I swallowed hard, piecing things together. You mean the child I just pulled out of the hospital? Were they trying to get to me? The child nodded solemnly. Anyone who has been inside, they become part of it. It feeds on fear and despair. My heart sank as I realized the implications of their words. I thought of the drawings I had seen in the hospital, desperate faces, lurking shadows. What do we do? I asked. We have to find the hidden gate. It's the only way to break the curse, the child said, looking around conspiratorially. But I need your help to get there. Before I could respond, a low growl echoed from the darkness surrounding the clearing. Something was closing in on us. Quick! The child urged. We don't have time. As dread flooded my senses, I asked, what if it's too late? What if they already have me? The child turned serious. Then you better run fast. Because they won't stop until you're one of them. I looked into the darkness ahead. Whatever waited was worse than I could imagine. Without thinking, I dashed into the trees, the child at my side, ready to face whatever was coming. We stumbled deeper into the woods, navigating through the dense trees. I could barely see where I was stepping, the shadows felt alive around me, wrapping around my legs like icy fingers. The growl echoed again, closer this time, sending a surge of adrenaline through me. Keep moving. The child urged, pulling me along. I focused on their small form, trying to match their pace, but my legs felt heavy. What's this gate you mentioned? I asked, gasping for air between each frantic step. It's a secret, they replied, scanning the area with urgency. But we have to find it quickly. They can follow our fear. Great, I muttered. As if I'm not terrified already. The child turned to me, their expression serious. Fear is what they want. You have to think of something else. Someone you care about. It will help shield you. I thought of my sister, how she would always laugh at my terrible jokes. I imagined her smile, the warmth of her presence. For a moment, the fear dimmed. Okay, I'm trying, I said, feeling slightly stronger. But I still don't understand how this gate works. It leads to a different place. A safer place, away from they hesitated, glancing over their shoulder. Away from them. The growl reverberated again, closer still, and a wave of panic washed over me. What do they want with us? They want to keep us. The child exclaimed. You can't join them. We must hurry. As we rushed forward, I noticed a flicker of light through the trees. Do you see that? I pointed with a shaky hand. Yes. They quickened their pace. That might be it. We approached the light, breathless and trembling. The woods opened up to reveal an old wooden door, half buried in ivy and moss. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Is this the gate? I asked, feeling both hopeful and terrified. Yes. We have to go through. The child's eyes were wide, filled with urgency. I reached for the door, but before I could touch it, a figure emerged from the shadows, blocking our path. It was a distorted version of the creature we had seen earlier, more defined now, with hollow eyes that seemed to reflect our fear. Stay back. I shouted, instinctively stepping in front of the child. The figure leaned closer, a grotesque smile twisting across its face. Let us play, it whispered, the voice echoing with 1,000 forlorn cries. I took a step back, my mind racing. This was one of the lost, and it wanted us. Don't listen to it. The child yelled, pulling me away from the door. Focus on the gate. We have to go through. Now. I asked, panic fluttering in my chest. Yes. It's our only chance. In that moment, something clicked inside me. I could feel the weight of fear trying to drag me down, but I fought against it. I thought of my sister again, her laughter ringing in my ears, a golden thread anchoring me amidst the chaos. The growl thundered behind us, and with one last look at the sinister figure, I sprinted toward the door with the child by my side. Just as we reached it, the world around us seemed to warp. The air shimmered, the dark woods trembling, and everything went silent. Then everything went dark. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to a faint glow in the distance. The air felt different, thicker, almost electric. I was lying on a cold, hard surface, and the smell of antiseptic surrounded me. As I pushed myself up, panic seized me. Where was I? Are you okay? The child's voice cut through the haze. They were at my side, their small face lit with concern. I think so. Where are we? I looked around. The walls were sterile white, and strange machines buzzed softly in the corners. We were in some sort of room, but it didn't feel safe. It's not where we're supposed to be. The child said urgently, glancing at the door, which stood ajar. We need to get out before they find us. Find us? Who? I asked, my stomach twisting. The sense of dread returned full force. The others. They follow your fear, they repeated firmly. If we don't move now, they'll come. I scrambled to my feet, still gathering my bearings. Where's the gate? It must be here somewhere. The child pointed to the doorway, but just as I stepped forward, I heard the sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway. My heart skipped a beat. We can't stay here. I whispered violently, pushing past the child toward the door, but they grabbed my arm. Wait. We need to be sure. Their grip was surprisingly strong for such a small person. Listen. I strained to hear, and the harsh sounds of shuffling feet grew louder. They were coming this way. Panic swelled in my throat as I turned back to the child. What do we do? There. Behind the curtain. They yanked me closer to a curtained-off area at the far end of the room. With no time to think, I followed them around the corner, my heart pounding that we crouched down, receding into the shadows as the footsteps carried on. They sounded heavy, deliberately slow, as if the figures knew we were here and were relishing the hunt. Do you think they can find us? I whispered, my fear creeping back in. Yes. But we have to be quiet. The child looked at me with wide eyes, a mixture of determination and despair. They can sense our fear. You have to think of something happy. I closed my eyes, longing for my sister's laughter once again. But just as the image formed, the curtain shifted slightly. I held my breath, recognizing the dark silhouette looming just beyond the thin fabric that it stood still, and then I heard a whisper. I can smell you. It was the same voice from before, soaked in malice. My stomach dropped. What is it? The child hissed, squeezing my hand. I don't know. I breathed. But we can't just sit here. Suddenly, the curtain was yanked aside, and I met the hollow eyes of the creature. My breath hitched. Before I had a chance to react, the child pushed me aside, putting themselves in front of me. Go! They shouted. Run! In that moment, instinct took over. I bolted out from behind the curtain, my legs moving before my mind could catch up. I sprinted down the sterile hallway, glancing back to see the child still standing their ground against the figure. Help me! They cried, but I couldn't stop. I didn't know what else to do. That I dashed past rooms filled with unfamiliar equipment, not sure if I was still in the same reality. Then, I spotted another door at the end of the hall, a bright light spilling into the corridor. I lunged for it, but just as I reached for the handle, I froze. Someone was in the room beyond. I hesitated, wondering if I had just traded one horror for another. The child's voice echoed in my mind. Fear isn't real. But as I pushed the door open, I realized that I was about to face whatever lay ahead. I stepped into the room, heart racing and breath shallow. The bright light was warmer here, but it did nothing to chase away the impending sense of dread. My eyes searched the space, trying to make sense of my surroundings. An empty hospital bed sat in the center, its sheets wrinkled and unnaturally white. Machines beeped softly in the corners, but there was no sign of life. Hello. I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. It felt silly to speak, but I wanted to reassure myself that I wasn't alone. Silence answered back, thick and suffocating, then I heard it. A soft, muffled sound behind me. I turned quickly, scanning the doorway. It was nothing but shadows. My pulse raced. I was on high alert, still reeling from what had just happened with the creature. Then, I spotted something on the floor, a small object reflecting the light. I crouched down to pick it up. It was the child's toy, a small, worn-out blue truck. "Where did you go?" I murmured, clutching it tightly. My skin crawled as I thought of leaving them behind. I felt the weight of guilt settling over me, mixing with my fear. Suddenly, I heard a voice, soft and sweet. "Help me!" My heart raced. It was the child's voice. I couldn't tell if it was coming from the room or just in my head. "Where are you?" I called, but there was no response. The silence wrapped around me once more, thick and tangible. Just then, a low growl emitted from the hallway. My instinct screamed for me to run, but where? I had nowhere to go. My mind raced, moving swiftly from thought to thought. Focus, I told myself. What would they do? That's when I remembered the faint light I had seen at the end of the corridor. If I went back there, it might lead me out. I didn't want to wait for whatever was hunting me to appear. That I turned and slipped through the door, my heart pounding against my ribs. As I fled back into the hallway, the echo of the growl intensified. I ran blindly, the sound growing closer and louder with every step. I glanced over my shoulder just in time to see a dark shape emerging from the shadows, tall and terrifying. "There's no other way," I whispered to myself, summoning every ounce of courage to sprint toward the light. I reached the door at the end of the hall and yanked it open, my hands trembling. As I stepped through, I was met with a sudden chill. The air outside felt different, a sharp contrast to the sterile heat of the hospital. The bright light behind me began to dim, and I turned back just in time to see the door slam shut. "Stay with me, please," I said to no one. The emptiness responded with a haunting silence. Knees trembling, I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I had to find the child. There was no other option. That I started walking forward, scanning the darkness ahead. But before long, I froze again. There was something on the ground, something familiar. My breath quickened. That wasn't just any toy. It was my sister's favorite doll. That's when I realized I wasn't just in a hospital anymore. I had crossed into something else altogether, and whatever was waiting for me out there was far worse than I had ever imagined. The darkness wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, making it hard to breathe. I stared at the doll, its once bright dress now faded and tattered, just like the memories attached to it. My heart raced as I recalled the nights I played with my sister, lost in our own world, blissfully unaware of the horrors that lurked beyond our imagination. "Why are you here?" I whispered to the doll, though I knew it couldn't answer. I couldn't shake the feeling that the doll was a sign and anchor to the past. Without thinking, I reached down to pick it up. Just as my fingers grazed its cold fabric, I heard that voice again, louder and clearer. "Help me!" It felt as though the sound reached into my chest and twisted like a knife. I scanned my surroundings for the source, but the shadows swallowed everything whole. A sudden gust of wind sent shivers down my spine, making every hair on my neck stand on end. That I needed to move. I couldn't stay here. My instincts screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. My mind raced as I thought about my sister and the long nights spent at the hospital while she fought for her life. This place, the echoes of the past, it felt like an illusion, like a twisted version of that time. The growl sounded again, sharper now, closer. I turned in the opposite direction, clutching the doll like it was a lifeline. "I'm coming!" I shouted, hoping against hope that my voice would reach her. Maybe if I followed the voice, I could save her, or at least find out what happened. That I stumbled forward, half blind in the murkiness, keeping the doll tight against my chest. The hallways twisted and turned unnaturally, as if the building itself were alive and shifting. I heard whispers now, soft and indistinct, ethereal echoes that danced around me, pulling me deeper into the darkness. But then, ahead, a light flickered. I squinted through the gloom, heart pounding like a war drum. Was this really a way out? Or was it another trap? The voice was stronger now, more demanding. Help please. With every ounce of resolve, I pushed forward toward the light. It grew brighter, surrounding me with warmth, pulling me away from the chill that gripped my heart. Just as I reached out for the doorknob, a sharp crash echoed behind me. The growl morphed into a blood-curdling roar that shook the ground beneath my feet and my stomach dropped. Whatever was hunting me was not far behind. In that moment, fear gripped me like a vice. I turned back to face the darkness, my eyes scanning for the shadow I knew was there. Stay back. I screamed, though the confidence in my voice was faltering, then everything went dark. I blinked against the sudden absence of light, confusion swirling in my head. The growls turned into a cacophony of sounds, each one pulling me down into an abyss I wasn't ready to face. In that deep silence, a thought crossed my mind: what if this nightmare had only just begun? I jolted awake in a cold sweat. The darkness was still there, but now it felt more oppressive. My heart raced, pounding in my ears. I was no longer in the hallway, but lying on a hard floor, still clutching the doll. I lifted my head slowly, scanning my surroundings, trying to gauge where I had ended up. The flickering light I'd seen before had returned, a weak glow emanating from a doorway to my left. An unsettling thought gnawed at me: what if I was still trapped in that memory? I picked myself up, the doll feeling heavy in my arms, and approached the door. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob, but before I could touch it, I heard the whispers again all around me and growing louder. Help me, help us. It was disturbing, almost as if the shadows were alive, crawling closer. I stepped back, breathing harder. This wasn't just my sister's voice anymore, it was a chorus of confusion and pain that I had to know what lay beyond the door. With a deep breath, I gripped the knob and twisted. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room cluttered with shadows. My senses screamed at me to run. But I needed answers. I stepped inside. The room was filled with old toys, like a graveyard of forgotten childhoods. Stuffed animals with missing eyes, broken dolls, and rusting tricycles were piled high. Each one seemed to whisper secrets of their own tragedies. As I moved deeper, one object caught my eye: an antique music box, delicate and ornate, stood on a dusty shelf, untouched by time. As if drawn to it, I reached for the box. Just as my fingers brushed the surface, the growl erupted again, deafening and furious. My heart froze as the room darkened. A deep shadow flickered across the wall behind me, coiling like a serpent. I spun around, bracing myself. That's when I noticed something unsettling: a pair of glowing eyes fixed on me, watching from the depths of the shadows. They weren't human. I could feel their hunger. My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back, glancing over my shoulder at the music box that had become my only tether to bravery. Please don't be afraid, the voice echoed softly, slicing through my panic. It seemed to come from the music box. But fear held me fast. I couldn't let go of the doll, my sister's missing piece, as I backed toward the door. As I turned, the eyes in the shadows flickered and vanished, leaving behind an icy stillness. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, watched. As I stepped back through the door and slammed it shut, but something intercepted before the latch could catch. The growling surged again, echoing in the enclosed space. I needed to get out, to escape whatever I had awoken. That was when I realized I had to confront the darkness, or it would consume me. I took one last look at the music box, feeling an uneasy mix of dread and curiosity. I wasn't ready, but something inside whispered that the answers lay within. The growling intensified, pushing me forward. I had to move. I turned and sprinted down the hallway, wings of shadow at my heels. And with every step, I felt it a pull toward the music box, an undeniable connection I couldn't ignore. Would I discover the truth of my past, or was I running deeper into a trap? Only time would tell. The hallway stretched endlessly before me, shadows flickering like anxious whispers. My heart echoed the frantic beat of my footsteps as I raced toward the distant glow, intertwined with shadows and memories. With each determined stride, the echoes of the music box's soft melody rang in my mind, pulling me toward the unknown. Suddenly, the glow brightened, illuminating a door at the end of the corridor. I rushed toward it, the cold chill of the air biting at my skin. I reached for the handle, barely hesitating before turning it with a swift motion. The door swung open, and I stumbled into a vast room unlike any I had seen before. It was bright, filled with soft, ethereal light that danced playfully around the walls. The unsettling feeling that had followed me for so long began to ease, if only slightly. I took a moment to gather my bearings, my breath hitching as I took in the sight. Colorful murals covered the walls, painted with the joyful scenes of children playing, running, laughing, and enjoying a world far removed from my reality. For a fleeting moment, I thought I had stepped into a place of solace, but just as it began to feel safe, that same haunting growl resonated through the air, sending icy tendrils of fear racing back through my body. "What do you want?" I shouted into the space, my voice shaken but firm. It felt as if the room itself held its breath, waiting. Then, from the shadows, a flicker of movement caught my eye. The child appeared, stepping into the light. Relief flooded over me, but it was quickly replaced by a new sense of dread when I noticed their expression, a mix of fear and urgency. "You shouldn't have come here," they warned, glancing at the door behind me. "They know you're here. We need to hurry." "What about you?" "I can't leave you. What if they find you?" My heart twisted at the thought of abandoning someone who had bravely guided me through so much. "There's no time. This place, it's a trap," the child insisted, eyes wide with an unspoken urgency. "We have to find the exit together. The music box will help us." "The music box?" I echoed, my thoughts racing back to the antique piece I had encountered earlier. "How?" "Only it can show us the way if we dare to face what's inside it," they said, looking back at the door. "But you need to be brave. Your courage will give it power." Nodding resolutely, I took the child's hand, and we dashed back toward the glowing edges where the music box awaited. The moment we stepped into the hallway again, the air weighed heavy as dark shapes writhed in the corners, whispering my name with voices that echoed my fears. "Focus on your sister," the child shouted over the cacophony of voices. "Believe in her. We can do this together." I shut my eyes briefly, conjuring the thought of her laughter, her warmth. That shimmering bond filled me with strength, and I felt the shadows shrink back slightly, as if repelled by the light of my memories. That we entered the room with the music box, its presence palpable now, beckoning me to draw closer. I approached it, heart in my throat, and lifted the delicate lid. A sweet, soft melody spilled into the air, filling the space with a nostalgic warmth. As the music played, the shadows writhed, but they began to take form, swirling around us in an almost entrancing dance. From that darkness, visions emerged, whispers of those who had been lost, memories swirling like smoke and dust. "Don't look away," the child urged, clutching my hand tighter. "Let it reveal the truth." Suddenly, flashes of my past danced before me, my sister smiling during a sunny day, laughter echoing between us, and then the moment at the hospital where time froze and the darkness began to creep in. The music crescendoed, and I felt myself being pulled into the depths of the box. It was as if I was wrapped in a cocoon of both beauty and despair, memories intertwined. This was our life. I shouted, fighting against the rising tide of fear. "We can't let it take us." With one final crescendo, the shadows swirled violently around the box, and I yelled, "We're not lost. We're still here." Gripping the child's hand, I focused on the bond we shared, the strength of a determined heart, defiant against the encroaching darkness, and with that, a blinding light burst forth from the music box, flooding the room. The shadows shrieked, repelled by the radiance that filled my heart and our memories. I closed my eyes tightly as the eruption washed over me, a soothing and terrifying combination, driving away the darkness. When I finally dared to open them again, I found myself back on the ground outside the hospital, still clutching the doll, but the air felt lighter. The sun crested the horizon, casting warm, golden beams over the remnants of night. I blinked, startled by the sudden shift but aware of a heavy presence still hanging over me. "Where's the child?" I murmured, scanning my surroundings for anything familiar. But there was only emptiness. The world breathed lightly around me, and just then, a whisper escaped my lips, the child's voice lingering in the air, "You have to keep going. Don't stop searching for the truth." I looked at the hospital, perceiving it differently now, sensing its wounds, its stories, and the lives that echoed within. I resolved that I would uncover the truth behind those shadows, whatever it took. And no matter what lurked in the darkness, I would seek the light in the memory, something pure to guide me forward. Because perhaps the real danger wasn't in what haunted the hospital, but in abandoning those who had sought freedom for so long. Though the answers remained shrouded, I felt an unexplainable strength coursing through me, lifting my head high. As I stepped away from the shadows of the hospital, uncertainty hung heavy in the air, yet a flickering hope ignited within my chest. Whatever lay ahead, I would face it alone or not. I would find a way to free all of us from the remnants of despair that lingered long after the night was over.